everyone. Welcome again to Physical Geography, Geography 101 for Spring 2018. This short video is going to serve as an introduction to the syllabus and an introduction to kind of geography in general, in case it's been a while since you've taken a geography class. My name is Jamie Rossiter. I'm your instructor for the semester. Hopefully you've watched that little video of me before you watch this one. I am available for office hours on Google Hangouts from Mondays from 10 to 11 a.m. And you do not need a Gmail account in order to sign up for Google Hangouts. You can sign up with any email account. And if you want to talk to me that way, which we can do a video call or simply message back and forth through Google Hangouts during my office hours, if you look up online how to log into Google Hangouts, it's pretty easy. And so you just look for me under my email address listed there, jrossiter@sdccd.edu. I am also available readily by email. This is an online class. I will respond to you, generally speaking, within 24 hours. And probably sooner than that. But if you email me at 11 o'clock at night when your module is due, I'm probably not going to get back to you the next day, so we'll take care of it then. And hopefully by now you've looked at the syllabus, and if you haven't, after you watch this video, please go and read the syllabus carefully. This class, the course description as listed in Miramar's catalog is this course examines the major world patterns of the physical environment. The course covers the fundamental information and processes dealing with the Earth's atmosphere, climate, landforms, natural vegetation, water, and soils, along with the appropriate use of maps and charts. And here we can see a map of climate zones globally. We are certainly going to look at a lot of maps this semester, but that's not all we're going to do. We're going to learn about everything from how clouds form to what happens and why volcanoes erupt. Your required textbook for the class is McKnight's Physical Geography 12th edition by Darrell Hess, which is available for use at the Miramar Library if you don't want to take it out. If you don't want to purchase it, you kind of have to use it in the library. You are also welcome to use the 11th edition of the book. Not much changes for physical geography between the 11th and 12th edition. I would recommend that you do not go back any further than the 11th edition, though, just for talks about global climates and climate change, which we want to make sure are current. Most people kind of look along with the textbook as they go through this. You're definitely going to want it before your exam as a way to study for those exams. And again, you're going to want to make sure that you know your way around Blackboard. Obviously, you've already made it there if you're watching this video. On the course homepage, there are some resources for you on campus in order to help you with Blackboard if you're unfamiliar with it. If you are having trouble figuring out navigating Blackboard or file type or that sort of thing, I'm really not the resource that you should contact. You should be talking to Online Learning Pathways, and they will help you out. And again, here's our course homepage, what it looks like. Introductions start here is where you are now. There's a folder for your syllabus, which is posted there. And then there are your modules. And so I'll talk a little bit about modules, but that's where you're going to go every week in order to complete your work for the course. And then below that, you have student orientation and tutorials, which can kind of help you navigate this online learning environment, especially if this is your first time doing so. So after you watch this video and read the syllabus carefully, you're going to click on that modules folder and you're going to proceed on to module 1. And again, every week is broken down into a module. And so as long as you cycle through that module, it'll have a mix of videos to watch, either lecture or outside videos. It'll have your exercises, which are short assignments that are due for each week. It'll have your exams when it's time for those. And so again, open up a module, go through every page. You complete every page of that module, you're good to go. And so modules become available on midnight on Sundays. You are not allowed to work ahead in this course. We're not supposed to have you work ahead in this course. You're supposed to keep along with the class. Some weeks we're going to have discussion boards where you need to kind of post back and forth with one another. And then you have until midnight the following Sunday to complete it. So what is the coursework for this class? We have 3 exams. That should say worth 50 points each, excuse me, for a total of 150 points. And we'll look at the course schedule in a minute to see where those fall. Exams are a mix of multiple choice and short answer questions. Once you log into an exam, it is a timed exam. You have 90 minutes to complete the exam. You are not allowed to backtrack questions. And so you want to make sure that when you log into that exam, that you have a reliable internet connection and a reliable computer. That is your job to make sure of that. But if something happens and everything fails during the middle of the exam, please email me and we'll work it out. You also have exercises. There are 18 exercises, which are kind of these short assignments where you're answering a question, possibly doing a little research on your own or looking at some materials that I've given you. Those are worth 10 points each. Each week, most weeks you only have 1 of those due. Occasionally you have 2 of them due. There's 2 of them this week. The first exercise this week is just introducing yourself, and the second one will be looking at longitude and latitude. There's a final course survey, which is worth 5 points. It's due in the last module. It basically gives me feedback on this class and allows me to improve it in the future. There's a plagiarism quiz, which is part of your first module. We're going to start off, you're going to watch some resources about plagiarism, and you're going to take a quiz about plagiarism. You can take this quiz up to 3 times to improve your score. It's really about you learning more about plagiarizing, knowing what it is, because if you plagiarize at some point during this class or you plagiarize on your final paper, you're going to receive a 0 for those assignments. And then you have a final paper. The resources for that will be available on Blackboard. It's not due until the second to last week of the semester. I'm tweaking that assignment a little bit, so I haven't posted the resources for that yet, but you'll be able to see that fairly soon. And that should say, excuse me, my math is off. That should say a total of 450 points, not 350 points for the whole class. Late assignments, full credit for late assignments will only be given in case of documented illness or another valid documented reason. I do accept late assignments though. If you don't complete your module by midnight on Sunday, I encourage you to complete it on Monday. Don't just let it go. 10% will be deducted per day for lateness, and after 1 week assignments will not be accepted. So it's better to complete late work and get that credit than to not complete the work at all. If you need special accommodations due to a documented disability, or some other reason, please let me know this week within the first week of class so we can set you up for that. This is my cheating and plagiarism policy, which I won't read in detail here, but basically if you cheat or plagiarize, you get a 0 for the assignment, and ignorance cannot be used as an excuse. You're all going to go through this plagiarism materials in Module 1, and so you have been taught it and you are expected to know it. And here is what your course schedule looks like, which you can see on the syllabus. And so we have a total of 15 modules. It's kind of like a 16-week semester, but you got a week in there for spring break. Most weeks you have 1 or possibly 2 chapters due, but it's 1 most week. And then where assignments are due here, you can see exactly the exercises that you have to do. So as part of this module 1, you're going to do exercises 1 and 2 and your plagiarism quiz, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually not very much. Your final paper is due as part of module 14. And then I have here when you have exams. With the exception of the last exam, you do have a short chapter with that week as well. The exams, by the way, are not cumulative. So exam 1 is on chapters 1 through 5. Exam 2 is on chapters 6 through 11. So once you complete that material, you move on to new material. And so I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about geography, what geography is, and what kind of tools geographers use just to orient you to the class. So geography is the study of the Earth and the way we interact with it, but it's a lot more than that as well. I have friends who are geographers who study everything from rainfall in the Himalayas to Twitter. There is cultural geography and physical geography, which I'll talk a little bit more about in your first lecture. I'm an environmental geographer. I primarily research marine conservation and marine protected areas, but you can do a lot with geography. So there's these basic concepts that geographers use to look at the world, and I'm going to go through all of these individually, but they're location, space, place, human environment interactions, movement networks, systems, and scale. There's only a few that we're really going to concentrate on in this class, but they'll all show up at one point or another. So the first one is location. We have two types of location that we think about, absolute location and relative location. Absolute location being exactly where you are on the planet. You can use like a GPS or a lat-long coordinate. Relative location is your location in relation to something else, right? Right now we are south of LA, just north of the Mexican border in Southern California. We use relative location all the time. The next is space. Geographers are really concerned with how people and phenomena fill space, and I don't mean outer space, but the space all around us. Here's a picture of something called the racial dot map, which you can Google and look up for the entire United States. But basically it uses census data to map where people live by their race. And so this is a racial dot map of Detroit. And that green color is African Americans, the blue color is white people, red is Asian, and orange is Hispanic. And so as geographers, we can see that there's a lot of segregation going on here, and we want to know why did that happen and what is going on there. The next is place, which is probably my favorite one. And these are the kind of all the things that go into a place that make you identify that place. So we can think about lots of different places. If I say to you the South, you're going to have very probably different views and feelings on that place, whether you grew up in the South or have visited the South or have never visited the South before. You might think of heat and barbecue. You might think of slavery. Places like San Diego, right? We have our own kind of very specific place identity, lots of surfing and palm trees and Balboa Park. Places like the city, home, Facebook. We have lots of virtual places out there that geographers study. Facebook is a virtual place. We can study how people connect across that place. Even it's discussed in a very kind of place-based way, right? People post something on your wall. Video games, lots of people spend a lot of time creating very intricate places on video games, or just places like the ghetto. Like, what do you think about when you think about the word the ghetto? What kind of place do you picture? The next thing is human environment interaction. And what I mean by human environment interaction is we are always interacting with the environment, and the environment is always interacting with us. And for example, here is a picture of industrial agriculture where we use lots of pesticides and lots of fertilizers. And sometimes our fertilizers, when we use all of these synthetic fertilizers, they run off into local waterways. And when they run off into local waterways, you get something called eutrophication. And so basically that fertilizer fertilizes the algae in those waterways and causes this algae to bloom and choke out everything else. And sometimes this can kill fish. And when this happens, right, if this was a spawning ground for some other fish, then you can affect fishermen downstream, right? Maybe their fish stocks are going to be depleted. So this idea that we are always affecting the environment is always affecting us. For your final paper, you're going to have to write about a geographic phenomena, how it affects humans, and how humans prepare for that event. And so you're going to look a lot at human-environment interaction. The next is movement and networks. And so here is a picture that was taken a few years ago when we had an influx of unaccompanied minors at the border in San Diego. And so as geographers, we want to know, how do things and people move through the environment? Why do they move? And how does that shape the connections and separations between people and places? If you were in my world regional geography class, we would talk lots and lots about movement and network and migrations. We'll talk about it a little bit in this class. We're going to talk a little bit about climate change refugees and people leaving their low-lying island nations to go to other places. What you are going to look at a lot in this class is systems. Physical science looks at systems, and these are inputs and outputs and interactions of matter and energy. And so here's a glacier system, which you'll cover very late in the course, but we can see here the material input is snow and ice. We have an energy input from solar radiation. We have a material output of rock and debris and meltwater, and an energy output of latent heat. So we're going to look at lots of systems. We're going to do some introduction stuff for the class next week, but then we're going to get right into the atmosphere, and then we're going to look at insulation and temperature, all of these different systems kind of working in conjunction with one another. And the last one is scale, which you'll learn about soon. We want to know kind of what is the right scale and what a map scale is also, but do we want to look at something at a local scale or a global scale? Is it better to look at something, is it a California issue or a federal issue? Geographers are very concerned with scale and how close in we're looking at something compared to far out. And so you're going to proceed on now to your first module. And in that first module, as a discussion board post for exercise 1, when you get to near the end, you're going to tell me why are you taking this class. You're going to list the countries that you have visited and why you were there, vacation, living, etc. Do not worry if you have never left the United States. Lots of people who take this class have never left the United States. That's fine. Just let me know where the most interesting place you think you have been is. And again, welcome to Geography 101, and now you're going to proceed on to Module 1.